The Friday Night Lights in Provo, Utah hit squarely on the Smith Fieldhouse, where a couple of teams are looking to better their regional qualifying scores. It's about getting to the postseason in March. Tonight, Arizona and BYU make the march to regionals. You'll watch it live next on BYU TV. Put your hands together for NCAA Women's Gymnastics live on BYU TV. Friday night showdown between the Arizona Wildcats representing the Pac-12 and the BYU Cougars from the Mountain Rim Gymnastics Conference. We welcome you wherever and however you're dialed in on BYU TV. It's great to have you with us. Alongside former BYU standout Mikkel Merkley, I am Spencer Linton. Tonight, the BYU Cougars trying to get over that next hill, and that is become a team that has an RQS or regional qualifying score that is good enough to compete at regionals. They're one spot out, Mikkel, and so the pressure is mounting with 2 home meets left.
2 home meets left. They just have to move up 1 spot. They can definitely do it. They're looking to score 49s on each event tonight, which would definitely push them over the edge and right into regionals.
And it's not like they haven't done that before. Just a few weeks ago, we watched them put up their best score in 10 years against Iowa. That takes us to our Impact Players, brought to you by Ahern Rentals, offering commercial and residential high-lift equipment with more than 80 locations nationwide. Ahern Rentals since 1953. Who from Arizona has your attention tonight?
Kristen looks great all the way around. She's been a long-time contributor for Arizona. She's competed in every single meet since she was a freshman. She's a second-year captain. She really leads by example. The coaches rave about what a hard worker she is. We're going to be looking for a really big floor score tonight, coming off a 9.925 last week.
Kristen Howard for the Gym Cats, and for the BYU Cougars, Mackenzie Douglas. What sticks out about her?
Mackenzie's a junior, brings a ton of experience as well. She's a transfer student, has just only contributed great things to BYU. She's a fierce competitor. Everything Doug does is just big. I'm really excited to see her on floor tonight. She constantly puts up huge scores, has huge tumbling, and just flies.
A look at Mackenzie Douglas, the high flyer, as Mikkel called her, and you will see her acrobatics particularly on display on the floor. That brings us to our keys to the meet, brought to you by Tim Daly Ford. When you look at what has to happen tonight, there are 2 words that will be involved in every single gymnastics meet that you ever watch, and it's hits and sticks.
Hits and sticks every time. Hits is just staying on the equipment, not making big deductions. Sticks is landing without moving your feet. That's what BYU has struggled with this season. They've started to hit their routines, but the sticks just haven't been there. That's what we'll be looking for.
And of course, we mentioned the regional qualifying score. Arizona in place to make a regional, but BYU, if there were a bubble in NCAA women's gymnastics, they would be just outside right now. But the good news for the Cougars is they've got time. They've got time to make a jump.
They do have time. Most of the teams are either done or today is their last meet to compete. The BYU Cougars, they have tonight to have a score that counts, and they come back on Monday with another score for counting. So as long as they hit those 2 meets, how they've been doing really well, then they'll be able to qualify easily.
Keys to the meet brought to you by Tim Daly Auto Group, serving Utah since 1968. Let's take a look at the lineup for the opening rotation for the BYU Cougars on vault. They will start with Lauren Love, followed by Angel Zong. Cheyenne Hill will compete 3rd. Shannon Hortman, 3-time Mountain Rim Gymnastics Conference Gymnast of the Week in that 4th spot, followed by Jill Van Mierlo, who is coming on strong late in this season. And Mackenzie Douglas is the anchor leg on vault. For the Arizona Wildcats on bars, they will start with Howard, followed by Spencer and Lob. Felix Terrazas in the 4th spot. Berg and Ortiz rounds out the opening 6 and rotation number 1 for the Gym Cats, coming off a disappointing loss to rival Arizona State in that head-to-head meet. But as I said before, in position to get into the postseason right now. This is a team that's flirted with the rankings. They've been in the rankings, just dropped out, but are right there as well. BYU and Arizona moments from getting started. The Cougars put up their best score against the University of Iowa in the Smithfield House a couple of weeks ago. Their best score in a decade, but the thing is you cannot count that high score in your RQS. You drop out the high, you drop out the low, and then you kind of average the rest of the meeting. So they are looking for another comparable score to what they did against the Hawkeyes, which was 196.475. Amazingly, they still lost that head-to-head meet.
I know, crazy, right?
Guard Young in his second season with BYU, and BYU's competition against the Hawkeyes, in the words of Shannon Hortman, the freshman star, was really important because they've been doing it consistently in practice. It just wasn't translating to the meets until that meet. So she said, look, we can do this, and the freshman has stepped up in that leadership role, not just on the floor, but vocally as well. We are underway, first vault of this Friday night meet.
Great vault. You can see the work that they're putting in on those landings tonight. She was not going to take a step. She did have a little bit of a hop. That will be a deduction, but overall that was a great opening for BYU.
Lauren Love with the opening vault for BYU. And the Cougars underway. Congratulations from Lauren's coaches and teammates. Always tough to be the very first competitor. You want to get up to a good start. Now here is Arizona on the uneven bars and Kristen Howard.
On bars, we're going to be looking for great handstands. Handstands are key here. We're also going to be looking for a few releases. Some done only on the high bar, some done from high bar to low bar. And as always, as we've been talking about, a big stick on the dismount.
Solid opening routine from Kristen Howard, the senior out of Phoenix, Arizona. And you said she'll be solid all night. Well, that's about as solid as it gets.
It's so important that your first girl hits, because that's what sets you up for a successful evening. 6 girls will be competing, only 5 girls count. If the first 5 girls hit, it takes a lot of pressure off girl number 6. If the first 5 don't hit, all the other girls are under a lot more pressure to hit their routines.
Career best of 9.875 on the uneven bars for Kristen Howard. She awaits her score. BYU back on the vault. Angel Zong to follow up Lauren Love's 9.775 to begin.
9.775 is a good opening score. The Cougars can build on that. They are hoping to average about 9.8 tonight.
Angel Zong, the freshman from Langley, British Columbia.
Great vault. We're going to see her body is totally straight in the air. The judges will be looking for that. See how she's so straight and then flares the arms out. Just a little too much power on the landing. Big step on the dismount. That will be at least 2/10.
Angel Zong, that beautiful body control in the air. You see the power that she has, but the big step. And now the score coming in for Arizona. Kristen Howard equals Lauren Love's opening 9.775. It takes us to Danielle Spencer on the uneven bars for the Gym Cats.
You'll see a lot of the girls doing this springboard mount where they jump over the low bar. You're only allowed to stand up on the low bar 1 time per routine. So we'll see later. She'll do her transitional release here, and then she'll probably stand up on the low bar. That springboard mount helps them avoid a deduction.
All-around gymnast out of Scottsdale, Arizona, Danny Spencer.
Beautiful dismount. That's called a double A. What we want to see on double A's, we'll be seeing a lot of those tonight, is the body is totally straight. Sometimes on those dismounts, we go a little bit arched and then pike down. The straighter we can keep the body here, the fewer deductions the girls are going to get.
Danny Spencer has a twin special needs brother named James. We know James is watching tonight. He's excited about that routine. Zong for BYU gets a 9.675 after the big step, and Cheyenne Hill up for BYU. Reminder that in all of these events, the low score in each rotation will be dropped before calculating the final tally.
she is about that. Cheyenne missed part of the beginning of the season due to an ankle injury, and I know she's just so excited to get back in lineup. Knees are tiny bit loose on that. I don't know if you can tell very much in regular speed motion. I don't know that she'll get a deduction for that. You'll see the girls are taking hops instead of steps. That's often less of a deduction, and you can control it a little more. It's good troubleshooting on their part to try and hide any deductions.
Cheyenne Hill pumped up. Danny Spencer equals Kristen Howard's 9.775. Gabrielle Lobb up next for Arizona.
You'll see a lot of these girls are doing skills in front of their releases. In gymnastics, we always talk about how the score is out of a 10. It's really not. It's out of a 9.5. And then they have to do extra tricky things to earn that last 5/10 by either connecting difficult skills or doing really hard moves.
Wow.
Huge dismount. That's exactly what we were talking about earlier with the body just staying totally open. Great example to set.
Senior out of Oklahoma, Gabrielle Lobb.
There's that connection of the clear hip into the Tkachev move that is bonus. And then this dismount is just crazy, totally straight, so close to the stick. Beautiful routine.
Common theme with this Arizona gymnastics squad is, and their gymnasts are really consistent. They don't miss a lot of time, whether it be practice or meets. Going through the notes, it was kind of uncommon to see them miss any time.
A lot of variation, yeah, they do great.
Wow!
Whoa, that was amazing!
Shannon Hortman.
Shannon's vault is extra tricky because she lands forward, which means she cannot see the ground before her feet hit. Body's totally open, hits it. That was great. That's exactly what BYU will be looking for tonight.
That blind landing, you saw her sell the stick before she went into the address of the judges.
I've been asked before if they get bonus points depending on if it matters how long they hold the stick. All you have to do is show that you have control. So if you show for half a second or 2 minutes, it doesn't matter.
What a vault. Our scorebox sponsor, Brady Industries, provider of commercial cleaning supplies and equipment throughout the western United States for over 65 years. Brady Industries, clean solutions, a tradition for generations. Lob with a 9.75. I think that's a little bit low.
I'm kind of surprised as well. It was a good routine.
Next on the bars for Arizona, Selena Felix Terrazas.
Huge connections there. The giant full into the gigantic Tkachev right into the shoot over. That is a lot going on, and she should be rewarded for it. It was done really well.
You bet.
Great dismount, nice stick. You'll see she did a little bit easier of a dismount. That double back, that double tuck is considered an easier dismount, but that's all she had to do at that point because the beginning of her routine has so much difficulty in it.
Great height, third senior out of 4 competitors for Arizona on the uneven bars. Experience pays off. Selena Felix Terrazas. Look at Shannon Hortman coming in with a 9.875 right after Cheyenne Hill scores a 9.825. Good start for BYU on vault.
In gymnastics, we want to see the scores rise as lineup continues. So assuming Jill hits, she'll be able to score well.
Jill Van Mierlo.
That was good sneakiness on the landing. I'm not sure that they'll count that as a stick, but she showed a lot of control. Great body position in the air. Again, her body's totally straight. Arms come in tight, flare out when she sees the floor. I don't know, she might get it. That was really good.
And a 9.9 for Selena Felix Terrazas. Maybe they gave her the benefit of the doubt after a tough score earlier. I don't know, but 2 great routines from Arizona back-to-back. Yeah. That landing is really, really solid from Terrazas. Now Christina Berg.
See the blind change into the pike Jaeger. Sometimes you will see that release move. It's called a Jaeger, done with the legs apart. Sometimes you'll see him done with the legs together. It's a little more difficult with the legs together. There's a higher chance of you kicking the high bar. It does increase the difficulty level of it, and you do get more bonus points for that move.
Dismount from Berg.
Whoa, these landings are great. That was a very hard dismount, that full in.
I was just about to say, well, how do you do better than a 9-9?
I guess we'll see, maybe.
The landing from Berg. Glue. Very impressive from the Gym Cats.
You'll see she does this half in, half out, and she can see the ground before she lands. She knows exactly where that is. When we're playing those replays in slow motion on the dismounts, look for when the gymnast can see the ground. It's going to be a good indicator of if they're going to be able to stick or not.
Jill Van Mierlo with a 9-8 for BYU. Here is Mackenzie Douglas, our impact performer.
Doug has another one of those vaults as a blind landing, very difficult. A little bit of a large step there on the dismount, not what the Cougars were going to want at the end of lineup. Very hard vaults. She has to do 1.5 twists, find the ground. It's done in a tough position. It's worth the exact same as if it was done in that straight body laid out position that we saw the other gymnasts do. Just a little bit of a different technique.
Berg with a 9.85, just a hair under Selena Felix Terrazas' 9.9. And that takes us to Madison Cindric. Career best 9.925, so she is certainly capable of putting up a huge score.
Great form. You can see her legs are just squeezing so tight. A lot of times we look at their toe points. If their toes are pointed really tightly, typically the rest of their legs are pointed and really squeezing tight. Oh, a little bit close to the bar on that. She did a great job not panicking. That is a horrible, horrible feeling when you're in the air and you know you are that close to the bar.
Let's take a look at that. Oh, my goodness.
You can see it almost looks like her dowel got a little stuck. Maybe she does it in close all the time. It didn't even seem to phase her.
She will tell you that she did it exactly
how
that way
she's been
on
practicing.
like that.
She was supposed to do it like that.
We just need to calm down. Good first rotation from both squads tonight. BYU on vault, Arizona on the uneven bars. Calculating the first rotation scores right now. We'll give the update in just a bit. BYU and Arizona, Friday night NCAA women's gymnastics continue on BYU TV in just a few moments. Use your timeline, your financial future. First rotation scores for BYU on vault. Angel Zong's 9.675 is the one dropped. The Cougars, they hit their mark.
That was their goal, 49.
Over 49, and that's a good score for them on vault. Arizona equally as impressive on the uneven bars. They too just a hair over 49. Lob's 9.75 is the score drop. When you can drop a 9.75, things are going pretty well.
That's a good sign, yeah. They don't have to worry about any falls. If you're dropping a high score like that and counting a 9.9, you're starting off pretty great.
So deadlocked after one rotation for Arizona and BYU. Now the Wildcats and Cougars will switch places. Arizona going to the vault, BYU to the uneven bars. Lob, Felix Terrazas, Matson, Swanson, Cindric, and Leung, the order for the Gym Cats. BYU on the uneven bars, where they have been the most consistent and straight up best all season on this event. Trejo, Douglas, Hortman, 1, 2, 3, followed by Haas, who is an uneven bars specialist, Jesse Westergaard, and Jill Van Mierlo, the anchor, on the uneven bars for BYU, and Guard Young. Identical 49.050 scores in one rotation for the Cougars and Wildcats. And rotation 2 just moments away from getting underway. The head coach of the Gym Cats, Tabitha Yim, also in her second season. So a couple of coaches relatively new to their respective programs. Guard Young in year number 2 and Tabitha Yim in her second year and competing in the Pac-12. You want to talk about a powerhouse gymnastics conference?
That is it. That's
Utah,
a good one right there.
UCLA. I mean,
tons and tons of just phenomenal schools competing.
Gabrielle Lobb awaiting the okay from the judges, and she has been given clearance. Vault number 1 for the Wildcats.
It's interesting to see her starting on the wood. Typically, you have 80 feet to run. You can use as much of that as you want. Looks like she wanted just a tiny bit extra for this. Good opening vault. A little bit of a pike down. You'll see what we were talking about earlier. You want to stay totally open. She's nice and open and then pikes down at the end. That will be a little bit of a deduction. Great landing. Really controlled. Good start.
Lobb awaits her score as she's congratulated by her head coach, Tabitha Yim. Natasha Trejo to open things up on BYU for their most solid event, the uneven bars.
Natasha consistently scores at least 9-8, so she's a great opening gymnast. It gives the other girls a lot of confidence to see a high performer start. Takes a little bit of pressure off. Transitional move was a little loose.
The dismount from Trejo.
BYU has beautiful, beautiful double lays. I've been so impressed with their double lays this year. When we're talking about nice straight bodies and then sticking consistently, they have very consistent landings on their dismounts as well.
The bar change.
Her hands go on the bar and then her hips keep twisting just a little bit. That will be a slight deduction. She did a good job recovering from it. And then you'll see that body is just really, really open. It's beautiful.
Trejo, the 5-foot sophomore out of Tucson, Arizona. So she grew up in the neighborhood of her competitors tonight, the Arizona Wildcats. Selena Felix Terrazas, number 2 on the vault.
That was a beautiful vault. You'll see it's very dynamic. She gets in, she twists very fast, and that gives her a lot of time to open. The judges want to see that. You don't want to use your entire vault time doing the twist. You'll see she blocks up, twists really fast, tons of time to open and find her landing.
Just a little bit of a collection step there on the landing, but so far so good for Arizona. Trejo scores a 9.7 to open things up for BYU, and now here comes Mackenzie Douglas.
Mackenzie's just really been working on her form the past few years. That was beautiful. Slight leg separation on the Ginger. This is gorgeous. You'll see she does that move where she puts her feet on and then releases. It's called a toe catch high. That's why you did not see her doing the springboard mount. She didn't need to. Beautiful, beautiful landing. That is exactly what we were talking about. BYU has been very impressive with their bar landings this season. Big dismounts, great landings to just finish it up. Cherry on top of the ice cream.
The stick for Mackenzie Douglas. See the release move first there. We'll take one more look at that dismount.
And this is a huge dismount. Anytime we see the twisting and the double back is just great.
Guard Young living every moment with his gymnasts.
I sometimes like watching guard more than the gymnastics.
Felix Terrazas follows up Lobb's 9.775 with a 9.725. So through 2 competitors in the second rotation, slight advantage to Arizona over BYU. Here's Lauren Matson. Whoa!
Huge vault as well. That is a beautiful half. Again, the blind landing, great control on the landing, baby hop. Nothing major by any means. Her body is so tight. On vault, we're looking for those tight bodies. We're also looking for a lot of height to distance ratio. We don't want it to be too long and low. We don't want it to be high and close to vault. That was beautiful.
Now that smile beaming all the way back to her hometown of Waconia, Minnesota. 5'3" sophomore Lauren Matson. Shannon Hortman up next for BYU on the uneven bars.
Shannon has really just been a breakout freshman this year. She's consistent. The team knows they can count on her. Really tight routines. You'll see her handstands are so tight. You do get a deduction if you do not have that handstand within 10 degrees of vertical. And all these girls tonight are just really making sure to hit that.
Back-to-back sticks for BYU.
Good. They look so good.
Three-time conference gymnast of the week, Shannon Hortman.
Huge dismount. I would say that's the best dismount we've seen tonight.
That routine, competing with Selena Felix Terrazas of Arizona on uneven bars, potentially for the high score of the night. Terrazas pulled in a 9.9 for the Wildcats just a few minutes ago. Matson, 9.825.
Next up, Heather Swanson.
Good vault giving way to Heather Swanson, the fourth to go on this event.
Tiny bit short on that landing. Another good vault. These are all very, very good vaults. Nice tight bodies. We'll watch in this replay right here. We'll see what happened, why it was so short. No, it was actually a pretty good vault. It looks like she just doesn't quite get it turned over at the beginning. Gets into that turn, gets a little antsy. Vault's hard because you have a lot of adrenaline and a lot going on in about half a second.
Swanson awaiting her score. Shannon Hortman ties a career and season best 9.875 with her uneven bars routine. Brittany Haas is the bar specialist, the only event that she competes in for BYU. You see that impressive 9.95 that she scored earlier this year, giving her the Specialist of the Week award in the Mountain Rim Gymnastics Conference.
Brittany does not give anything away. Everything she does is so tight. You can tell she just works. She takes her role very seriously. I know she would like to compete on the other events. She can't due to injuries. So she makes sure that she makes her event count. Guard. I just can't get enough of it.
Brittany Haas and her release move.
Everything she does. Watch how tight her legs are squeezing when she catches and in the air. She also does a really good job of pulling her arms in tight, making it just so nice and long.
And here's your reaction from guard Young, Mikkel.
The fist pumps.
The triple fist pump.
You just don't get to see that very much in gymnastics.
Swanson scores a 9.65 for that short landing. But the Wildcats still top to bottom solid, which has been the theme of their season. Madison Cindric looking to improve on a season best 9.8.
Wow, that had a lot of amplitude. That was a great vault. You'll see when she contacts the vault, she is pushing so tall. Her arms are totally straight and she's able to just kind of bounce right off it. Judges are looking for that. They want to see that nice, tight, it's called a block. We don't want to see the arms bend at all. And if you can just be pushing and it looks like you just bounce off it looks easy. That's what we want to see. We want to see the girls doing really hard things and making it look like it was no big deal.
Nice showing from Cindric. Jessie Westergaard on the uneven bars for BYU.
Jessie's another girl that puts up really big scores for BYU. Nice connection there. The release to release, that's worth more. That's what we want to see. It also helps if you can connect your releases, then you don't have to worry about an extra handstand to be missing.
Westergaard.
That's a really big dismount that she just did. The double front, it's an E, which gymnastic skills are rated A to E, A being the easiest, E being the most difficult. The blind landing again, she handles it very well.
Plenty of distance from that bar.
Yes. We feel a little safer when they're a little further away.
Step forward, but overall pretty good routine from Westergaard, following up Haas with the 9.75. Just about all the way through 2 rotations. Cindric 9.8, that equals her season best on vault. Jenny Leung is the anchor leg on the vault for the Gymcats.
I've been asked why the girls look down the runway like that. Why are they looking down there? Can they not see the vault? They're not looking for the vault. The judge has to tell them when it's their turn to go. They're looking for the judge to raise a flag. A little bit easier vault that we've seen tonight. No twist. Start value is much lower. Very tightly done though. Look how tight her body is. Looks like it has plenty of power, plenty of distance. Likely she is working the full or the half. It's just not quite ready to be put into lineup yet.
Westergaard with the 9.8 even. Thus far, BYU looking at dropping a 9.7 from Natasha Trejo. Jill Van Mierlo, last opportunity to give BYU a little bit of a boost here on the uneven bars.
Jill also has very big gymnastics on bars. Everything she does very tight. You'll see these handstands, she really just nails them.
2 years ago, the Mountain Rim Gymnastics Conference Gymnast of the Year as a freshman.
This is a great set. Her legs have not come apart a single time. We'll see, look at them just squeezing so tight. That's exactly what the judges want to see.
So far, so good.
Huge routine for the Cougars to finish with. You'll see when we watch the dismount again, you'll see, again, just like we were talking about when Arizona was on bars, she finishes up that twist quite early and can just open up right into that dismount. Looking for the ground, going for the stick.
See that release move? It is big and impressive, and so is that. The mic drop stick from Jill Van Mierlo. Two rotations in the books in terms of official scores. Teams do have the options of putting out an exhibition routine. The Wildcats will not have a competitor in exhibition format on the vault, so BYU will once again go on the uneven bars. It will be Savannah Maradiaga.
Exhibition routines are so great for experience. It's kind of scary coming out here all by yourself. Everyone is watching you, you know that. So it's a great time to work out all of your nerves and get used to competing on different equipment before you're put in lineup with real pressure on you. It's also a great chance to prove yourselves. Sometimes if you are hitting as an exhibition performer and people in lineup are not hitting, then suddenly you're moved into lineup.
Maradiaga.
There's that big double front dismount again. Great landing. That whole routine was beautiful. It's so great that that is their exhibition routine. That means that their lineup is deep enough that if someone gets hurt, they can rely on that 7th person to just step right in. No big deal.
Maradiaga, well-deserved smile after an impressive exhibition routine that won't count for BYU's score, but
that was
do big things for her confidence.
That was the best double front that we've seen tonight. Good distance, good landing, very good.
Teams making the move to the 3rd rotation. And correction on that, that was not Savannah Maradiaga, that was Marielle Mitchell, a last-minute change. So Marielle enjoying BYU taking on Iowa out of the Big Ten. The Cougars put up their best score of the season by a mile, 196.425, well over an average of 49 on each event. BYU's best team score overall in a decade. The amazing thing about this performance, Mikkel, we mentioned this earlier, Iowa won the head-to-head meet. They had a remarkable night in Pro Bowl.
Fabulous. They both scored so well.
Arizona on vault. after dropping a 9.65. Totals of 48.775, which puts them at just under a 2-event total of 98. And BYU with a 49.150. So the Cougars, through 2 events, right where they want to be. The goal for the team for each event is to be 49 plus. They have done that on vault and on the uneven bars, highlighted by Jill Van Mierle's 9.9 on the uneven bars. And the Cougars have nearly a 4/10 lead going to rotation number 3, which is the always tricky balance beam.
Beam always makes me nervous for both teams. It's just so skinny. They have to do so many tricks on it, and it just seems to be every team's Achilles heel. It's kind of the wild card. If you hit, you're going to score phenomenally. If you fall, then it seems to have a domino effect pretty fast.
Beam lineup for BYU: Pearson, Miller, Hill, Shannon Hortman 4th, Jill Van Mierle coming out that 9.9 on uneven bars in the 5 spot, and Natasha Trejo. This consistency for BYU on the balance beam. On the floor for the Wildcats, only 5 in this rotation, Mikkel, which means all 5 competitors, their scores will count.
That is a hard place to be in. Realistically, it shouldn't matter. You're going in to hit your routine regardless. It shouldn't matter how many people you have in lineup. But realistically, that is hard mentally, knowing that there is a lot of pressure on you. There's no one to catch you if you fall.
Matson, Swanson, Lobb, Howard, and Schneider, the 5 on floor for the Wildcats. Rotation number 3. About to go in the Smith Fieldhouse in Provo, Utah. If you're just joining us, great to have you with us on BYU TV for Friday Night NCAA Gymnastics. Alongside Mikkel Merkley, I'm Spencer Linton to recap some storylines. BYU, 1 spot out of making a regional and getting into NCAA postseason competition. A good score tonight would help them in a major way. They have 1 more meet after this Monday night, rare Monday showdown with in-state foe Southern Utah.
Brianna up on beam right now. The Cougars really like to have her up in this first position. They talk about her coaches talk about her laid-back personality. The pressure of being up first doesn't seem to get to her. She kind of just has a free spirit, likes to be called Beyonce. She's just a fun girl, able to handle this.
I was hoping you'd bring that up.
The Beyonce?
Yeah, yes.
We should have been calling her that all night. Looking at her series here, this is one of the most difficult skills that the gymnasts do in the evening. We'll be looking for, that was called the series. It's typically a flick lay, which is what Beyonce here just did. Sometimes it will be a front back move, which is also the series. We'll be also looking for leaps, jumps, turns. At least 1 time in their routine, they have to show a full 180-degree split. That's what we'll be looking for in the leaps. And then, of course, the dismount, we're looking for the sticks.
Dismount from Brianna Pearson. Hot
Such
step.
a great opening, though.
Yeah, pretty solid routine. Acro series in replay format.
It's such a weight off your shoulders when you hit your acro series. Typically, it's your acro series or your front side move that you'll fall on. So once that's out of the way, you can kind of relax and really focus on just nice shaping in your leaps and jumps. Getting that darn full turn out of the way. Everyone hates the full turn. It's the easiest skill you could do, and it seems to just catch you off guard sometimes.
Brianna Pearson, relatively clean routine for BYU to begin on balance beam. That takes us to the floor, and Lauren Matson for Arizona. The Wildcats, after 2 rotations, trailing BYU by just about 4/10. Matson awaiting clearance from the judges.
It's time again for a quick fan check. We still
She
have
put
those
together
Arizona Wildcat fans in the house.
a fantastic early routine on vault.
Let me hear you, Wildcats.
Looking at the floor exercise lineup, if you had to pick only 5 girls to compete, they're in a great spot. All 5 girls are very consistent, typically put up at least 9.8, 9.875. Kennedy is top 50 in the nation. So despite the fact that they are down one girl, we should still expect to see great performances from Arizona tonight.
The Gym Cats have just added a 6th competitor on the floor routine, so a last-minute change, and here we go.
Floor is a fun event to watch. We get to see a little more of the girls' personalities, a little more showing off here. Really big opening pass, the double back. We'll be seeing a lot of double backs tonight. We'll be looking for the double back, and then we'll also be looking for twisting passes. The girls need to go tumble both forward and backwards, which is what we just saw there. We'll also be looking for leaps, jumps, turns, all the dance elements that are required but typically overlooked. A lot of times in gymnastics, we just get excited about their tumbling passes. The dance moves are worth just as much and are required.
Matson tied a career high last time out on the floor with a 9.875. Confidence riding high after a team high vault in tonight's meet as well.
Getting ready for that last pass. We can see a little bit slower dance in the corners. Take your time. Big double back to end. Opening with a double pike and ending with a double tuck is very common in the more advanced teams. It shows a lot of fitness. Double backs are a hard pass, so to do it at the end when you're very tired is good. It shows good gymnastics, good technique.
Lauren Matson, the 5'3" sophomore out of Minnesota, as we look back at some of her highlights from that most recent floor routine. Solid second pass, and now the final pass. Yeah, and you mentioned how hard it is
It's
to
hard
pull
to do
off that
one.
at the end, but you saw the amplitude and just how springy she was on that last pass.
Yeah, she did a great job with it. It's hard enough to do a double back, just doing one, let alone after you've been running around for a minute and a half.
Brianna Pearson with a 9.75 as an opening score on the balance beam for BYU. Takes us to Hannah Miller.
Beam is Hannah's favorite event, which is great. She can come in with a lot of confidence and just plan on hitting. Instead of worrying about if she's going to hit, she's worried about how well she's going to hit. Beautiful flick lay there. That's Hannah's front move. You'll see she did a jump before and after it. That's for the bonus we were talking about earlier. You do have to get bonus on every single event if you'd like your routine to start out of a 10.0. Good pacing here from Hannah. You don't want to move too fast on beam. Beam's more of a quiet confidence type of event.
Great composure from the freshman out of Farmington, Utah, Hannah Miller. She fell on this event last week, so that's big for her confidence coming back after that.
Yes, BYU did have 2 falls on beam last week, which means they had to count one, which is a huge bummer. Coming back tonight, she had a lot to prove. A little more pressure on her to show that she's ready to just get back up on that beam. She did a great job with it.
Solid gymnastics on the balance beam for Hannah Miller. BYU with 2 hit routines, and we move back to the floor. In the Gym Cats, we await the score of competitor number 1 on the floor, Lauren Matson. It is a 9.75. Heather Swanson is next to compete.
Heather Swanson.
Arizona relies so heavily on their senior competitors. Heather Swanson is one of the freshmen that has taken on a large role in that youthful situation on this specific squad.
It's great when you can get in as a freshman because you can gain a lot of experience very quickly, which means you can contribute a lot more over the next 4 years. Sometimes as a freshman, you don't get to compete. You just aren't quite ready for those lineup spots. And then when it's your time to compete, you've already had that year out of the competition setting. It's kind of hard to get back in the groove, remember how to handle your nerves, handle the adrenaline. She's at a huge advantage for the next few years. That pass right there is kind of a tricky one. It's called a whip into her double full, worth the bonus. Harder than doing a back handspring. A little more powerful though. You'll see again, slow the dance down, try to get your breath back. Routines are only 90 seconds, but they're a very, very taxing 90 seconds. Beautiful final pass. That 2.5 is very difficult.
Second pass from Heather Swanson, the freshman out of Parkland, Florida.
Very strong twister. A lot of times you'll see gymnasts are either strong twisters or strong multiple flippers. So typically we'll see that they're doing the double backs or they're just really great with the twisting. Not often do you get a gymnast that can do both well.
Miller for BYU comes in with a 9.775, quarter of a tenth better than Brianna Pearson's 9.75. And that takes us to Cheyenne Hill, who has a career and season best of 9.8.
We'll want to keep an eye on Cheyenne's dance. Her dream is to try out for So You Think You Can Dance following graduation. You can see she likes to have a lot of fun with her dance on both beam and floor. You know, you only have 4 years here in college gymnastics. If you can have a little fun with it, all the better. Here's that turn. Again, that full turn, it's probably one of their easier skills, but you'd be surprised how often you see the girls, you don't think about it. It's so easy that you start thinking about your next skill, and it will sometimes catch you off guard.
Solid.
Great connection there. The Cougars look really good on beam tonight. They look confident, they look calm.
Cheyenne Hill. Flexes her muscles after that routine. Right on it.
You'll see she will get a tiny bit of a deduction on that front move. It was a smidge lower than she normally performs it. When we're looking at front moves on both floor and beam, we don't want to see the shoulders dip at all going into it. We want to see the shoulders stay high and neutral, and then the hips rotate around the shoulders. It's a little easier to see on floor.
Swanson with a 9.775 on floor. Up next, gonna want to watch this young lady closely. Kristen Howard has a huge floor routine.
Really big double back. She
Like
just
I
looks
said.
like she just gracefully floated out of the air.
She's coming off a career best 9.925 on the floor.
The harder the tricks the girls do in combination with how easy they can make them look directly affects their score. If they can make a hard skill like that just look easy peasy, then she's going to score well.
Pass number 2 for Kristen Howard.
And you can see there what we were talking about. The shoulders stayed up nice and high. The body rotated around it. Lots of amplitude. Outstanding pass.
One of the 3 captains for the Gym Cats.
Everything she's done so far has been very smooth. That's exactly what we want to see. You don't want to leave any thoughts in the judge's head like, oh, that was weird. Again, another great landing. This is a first-class routine. And you can see why her teammates have elected to have her as a captain. She's done great all evening.
If the Gym Cats want to make a move in rotation number 3, there's a good chance that Kristen Howard is going to be a major player in that. You look at her acrobatics on these passes. The first pass was just dynamite.
Brilliant. Yeah, you can see she lands so, it's almost like soft looking, as if she wasn't 20 feet in the air 2 seconds ago. You'll see she does that fancy little dance move out. Not a deduction. Very, very good planning by her coaches. You are allowed one pass with some kind of jump or dance move out of it. If you're inconsistent or you just feel like you want to add to your routine, it's a lot easier to stick if you're dancing out of it.
Cheyenne Hill ties her career best on balance beam for BYU with the latest score of a 9.8. Which brings us to Shannon Hortman, who has a fun mount there, showing off some of her strength.
Shannon is fun. Her dream is to be Cheyenne's partner on So You Think You Can Dance.
Ooh,
good save. Shannon's working on slowing down and being calm on beam, and you can see it really paid off there. It would have been easy to panic, flail your arms, but she was able to regain control fairly quickly on that.
Now, falling on beam is a 5/10 deduction. When you have to flail like that a little bit to stay up, what kind of a deduction is that, Nicole?
You know, it just depends. That deduction right there is going to be a larger deduction, at least 3/10 because of how much flailing happened. Typically, though, with falling, you're always better staying on the beam, because if you fall, it's the automatic 5/10. And then the judges are like, there's a reason she fell, so she's going to be knocked harder for anything else that she did to cause that fall.
Shannon Hortman hanging on as the 4th competitor on balance beam. Let's take another look at just how close this was to a 5/10 deduction and a fall. Well, she recovers rather quickly because she is sped up, right? She does everything fast, so why would the recovery not be fast?
Exactly.
$9.85 for Howard on the floor, which is nothing to scoff at. But again,
I've been surprised
with
by
how
a
big
few,
that routine was.
Yes, I've been surprised by a few scores tonight.
I think Arizona may have some frustrations with some of these scores coming in. Kennedy Schneider for the Wildcats, first pass.
Another huge double pike. You see, Kennedy does a little bit of a variation here she varies from the typical tumbling passes that we see. We don't often see those 3 front moves connected. Good for bonus. It might also be a planning thing as well. Perhaps the front tuck is a little easier for her to stick than the front full. Everything once you get to college is about just minimizing deductions. So if you can figure out a way to do really great skills without getting a deduction, you might change your routine up a little bit for that.
Out of Henderson, Nevada, Kennedy Schneider has competed in every meet since attending Arizona, like Kristen Howard. She choreographs all of her own routines.
Maybe we'll see her out there with Cheyenne and Shannon on their TV show.
So You Think You Can Dance gymnastics emphasis.
Yes, that's what we need.
Schneider, wow!
Huge double back again. Gymnasts on floor are allowed to take that one step back. It's called a lunge. It's the only event that they are allowed to take that step back. If you can do it without taking the step back, it just looks so much more, kind of puts you more in the expert category.
There's that first pass, which is just ridiculous. And then the final pass, so springy.
Tons of amplitude.
Two looks at that last pass. And Arizona with 5 pretty good routines in on floor. They did add a 6th competitor. Hortman comes in with a 9.7.
Which is a great score considering the series. The rest of the routine was fairly flawless.
Jill Van Mierlo. BYU 4 for 4 on the beam thus far. Puts them in great position with Van Mierlo up.
You can see the difference in Van Mierlo. She's one of the gymnasts that really takes her time. She waits out everything, makes sure she's on. You can see the difference in technique compared to some of the other gymnasts that we see that move a little bit faster. Great leap pass. You'll see she does such a good job of showing those shapes. We want to see nice tight legs, full 180-degree split. That was a great recovery. She easily could have, she was just slightly off to the right. You see when she stands up, she could have easily have had a bobble on that, had a deduction. Instead, she just really sucks those arms down and doesn't allow anything to move.
Dismount from Van Mierlo.
That was a huge set. That is exactly what BYU is looking for. The goal tonight was to average a 9.8. She's going to bring that average up with that routine.
BYU with 5 clean routines on the always tricky balance beam.
You'll see here she's just tiny bit off to the right, swoops those arms down, squeezes everything on her body so tight, does not allow a single wobble to happen. Shows a lot of experience.
(9.825) for Schneider.
This is one of the last routines that she'll do as she's a senior. It's kind of emotional when you know your career is coming to an end. This is their last meet of regular season.
Maddie Sindrick. Her career highlights include a Pac-12 Freshman of the Week honor a couple of years ago. First pass for Sindrick. You betcha.
Those mats that the girls have on the floor, they're called 4-inchers. They're just to protect the gymnast ankles. You'll see a lot of these gymnasts are heavily taped at this point in the season. Double backs aren't super great for your knees and ankles. So that's just a tiny bit of cushion. There's no deduction for having one there.
Pass for Sindrick here.
That was they have such soft landings. It's so impressive. Really great double backs from Arizona.
Expert technique from Maddie Sindrick. She should be excited after that routine. What critique do you have for that?
No, not much. Chess was a tiny bit low on the landing, but look at how she makes up for it here.
Just as impressive.
Even her toes are pointed. A lot of times the gymnasts forget about being tight on the double backs because you're just so worried about getting it around and focusing on the landing. But everything just looks very elite looking.
Jill Van Mierlo ties a season best 9.9 on the balance beam. That takes us to Natasha Trejo. Anchor leg, if you will, on the balance beam.
Having the first 5 girls hit before Natasha takes a lot of pressure off her. Even if they have to count that low 9.7, they're still coming out with a great score. She can only improve at this point. They're not necessarily relying on her so that they don't have to count a fall.
Shortest gymnast on this BYU squad, 5 feet even. Again, from Tucson, Arizona, the home of the Arizona Wildcats, Acro Series.
Very solid. I love that little kick thing she does. It's actually really hard. Where she puts her head back, it's easy to knock yourself off a little bit and you lose sight of that beam. That beam is so skinny. You want to be able to see it as much as you can. Shows a lot of flexibility and just a lot of confidence up there. There she is again with that blind jump. It's called a ring jump. Worth a lot as far as difficulty goes because the head does release backwards.
Natasha Trejo. No falls for BYU
No
on the
falls.
balance beam in the third rotation.
Such a good feeling. Tiny bit of a wobble there for that front kick over. Does a great job holding on. The Cougars did such a good job just staying calm and collective on beam tonight. It would have been very easy a few times to panic, start flailing about, and knock themselves off. Instead, they just really came in tight. Coach Natalie's going to be very proud of her beam lineup tonight.
Third rotation completed for BYU after Natasha Trejo. And the Gym Cats now have opted to remove Lob as a sixth competitor, and they will go with the 5 scores rather that they have in the books. Cindric with a 9.85, equaling Howard. So that is 3 rotations in the books. Exhibition routine for BYU on the balance beam. And here is Savannah Maradiaga. Fall right there. Again, it won't count, but all goes in the experience category.
Yes, for sure. She's going to want to practice as if this is counting. So assuming she were in lineup, her job now would be to be scoring a 9.5. A 9.5 is as high as you can score if you fall because it is a 5/10 deduction, but you never know if you fall if your routine is going to have to count. So she's going to be making every effort here to just be flawless from this point out. Sometimes it's really hard to get back in your groove once you've fallen. She's doing a good job. She's handling it well. We did see that little bit of a wobble there after the side move. Great dismount, though.
Good finish. You can see some frustration, obviously, on Savannah's face for the fall, but it's important to get back up and keep every point that you possibly can. Guard young. Some good counsel for his sophomore gymnast out of Tyler, Texas. 3 rotations done here in Provo, Utah. BYU searching for their first head-to-head win of the season. Will it come on the second to last meet? Stay with us. Welcome back to the Smith Fieldhouse in Provo, Utah. It's time for some math fun explained by Mikkel Merkley in the form of an RQS, or regional qualifying score. How in the world do you calculate those 3 letters?
It's probably unnecessarily confusing and hard, but we're going to take the top 6 meets. 3 have to be away. We're going to drop the top score. That way, if there's just some meet where the judges are giving away scores, they don't get to count it. So then you average the 5 remaining of the top 6. Only the top 36 teams get to compete in the postseason, which is why the Cougars are working so hard tonight to raise their RQS. Top 36 teams go to regionals. They're currently ranked top 37. They're ranked to the 37th spot. So assuming that they can keep doing what they've been doing all night and getting these 49s, they'll be in a great spot. So.
It'd be nice to count a 196 plus, and you see that one against Iowa because it is the outlier and the high score. It's not included right now. The Cougars pacing for a comparative score tonight. Our game summary presented by Deseret First Credit Union. Deseret First, your values, your timeline, your financial future. BYU 3 for 3 and going 49 plus on the 3 rotations competed in so far tonight. They dropped Shannon Hortman's 9.7, but benefit from a 9.9 by Jill Van Mierlo and a couple of 9.8s on behalf of Cheyenne Hill and Natasha Trejo. Arizona only competed 5 on the floor, and they put together a 49 plus.
Great forward. Very
impressive from the Gym Cats, who trail BYU after 3 rotations by 3.5 tenths. Arizona to the balance beam to finish out this head-to-head competition. BYU to the floor. You can see the advantage to BYU right now, 147.225 to Arizona's 146.875. BYU typically solid on the floor routines. Barring any major setback, BYU will score over 196 and be able to include that score in the regional qualifying score.
Very confusing RQS score.
Yes. That was beautifully explained by you, Mikkel. Mathematics at the hardest level.
You guys might have to just Google it while you're watching floor.
Arizona on the beam. We'll start with the always solid Kristen Howard, Hendrickson, Cowles, Leung, Schneider, and Cindric. The 6 to go on beam for the Gym Cats. BYU on the floor. We'll counter with the following 6. Van Mierlo leads things off, followed by Trejo, Pearson in the 3 spot, Portman, Douglas, and Kylie Greenleaf. And her lone event of competition tonight is the anchor leg on floor. Now, this young lady, Kristen Howard, has been as advertised, doing things you want a captain to do on the beam.
That was a fabulous mount. It's so fun when the girls take a little bit of time to show off either extra strength or extra flexibility. You'll see here, this is not a required move by any means, but really showed off such great control.
Kristen goes by the nickname of T, out of Phoenix, Arizona.
Kristen's one of those slower beam workers that we talked about. I like the way it looks. I feel like it shows a lot of confidence. You're not letting the beam rush you. You're taking your time and you know you're going to hit your skills. Great turn there. No deductions so far. This is a fabulous opening set.
Ooh.
So tricky.
That is so difficult, and she makes it look very, very easy. What a routine by Kristen Howard.
Fun dismount that we don't get to see very often. That gainer off the end with the full twist, worth just as much as all the other dismounts you see. See that beautiful split into that. It's called a TikTok. It's kind of a fun name. That counts as her front move, instead of seeing the front flips or the aerials that we often see. Kind of fun to see a little bit of variation, which she shows that variation in that dismount. Great stick. When that's your opening set and you can just build off that, what a great way to start beam.
Jill Van Mierlo peaking at the right time this season for BYU.
You know, I was just thinking that about the whole team. Guard is very scientific in the way that he plans workouts, and he's very intentional in trying to make sure the girls peak during postseason.
Van Mierlo, first pass is good. Now, what's interesting about that logic that you bring up, Mikkel, is a few weeks ago before the Iowa meet, he said, what we're doing right now in practice and training, it's just not translating in meets, so let's switch something.
And what they ended up switching is before they were saying a lot of individual assignments because the girls compete as individuals. You know, you need to come in, you need to hit your 5-bar routines, you need to come in and hit 3 floor routines. So then they switched it up and started saying, know what, you compete as an individual, but we hit as a team. So instead of coming in and hitting 5 routines as yourself, now you have to hit 3 team sets, and you don't leave bars until everyone has hit. It's been a little more taxing on their bodies, but you can see that it's obviously working. It's giving them that pressure that they need in practice to hit because their teammates are relying on them. Just like in a meet, you need to hit because your teammates are relying on you.
Jill Van Mierlo. Oh.
Shoot. You could see her feet were just a little bit too far out in front of her going into that full twist. Beautiful double back here though. Lots of amplitude, great landing.
Here's the fall. It looked as if she just didn't really gather herself after that initial flip.
Yeah, her feet were just a little far out in front of her. It looks like it caused her legs to give out just a little bit. That left one was a little bit behind. It's so hard to connect front fronts. If your first front flip is even a little off, it really messes up that second one. It's almost impossible to recover.
Howard with a 9.875 on the balance beam.
What a great opening score.
Followed by Haley Hendrickson, who has equaled that as a season and career best.
You'll see that she used a springboard to start, kind of like on bars, how sometimes they'll use it. She did that nice split mount. She doesn't want to jump up and accidentally jump over the beam. That happens sometimes when you do those fancy mounts. She wants to be as close to the beam height as possible so she can just kind of barely jump and then show that pretty flexibility off in her split. Beautiful acro series. Again, just taking her time, making sure she hits each skill, taking time to show off all the hard work that she's put in all season. Arizona's in a little different position than BYU. Arizona's already earned their regional spot. They're definitely qualified at this point. So now it's just about gaining confidence and getting ready for postseason.
Hendrickson, the sophomore out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Lived in Arizona for 6 years, where she first began gymnastics, and now her career has taken her back, and a fall by Hendrickson on the beam.
You know, it was a really good aerial. It was just a tiny, tiny bit off, but that beam is tiny, tiny. So if you're a little bit off, it's kind of hard to recoup.
Sticks the dismount that close. I mean, at the tail end of her routine.
So frustrating when you've done such a great routine. You'll see her head's just a tiny bit off in the air to the right, making her body come around to the side just slightly. It's all just so slight. There's just not much room for error when you're competing on a beam.
Jill Van Mierlo with an 8.8 after that fall. First run for BYU in this final rotation. And now understandably, when you have to count 5 scores and the fall happens in competitor number 1, the pressure mounts on all of these BYU gymnasts.
For sure. Luckily, BYU has a very consistent floor lineup. They're going to be there for her. That opening turn that Natasha starts with is very difficult. That's it's called a D. You have to have 2 Ds in your routine. Natasha gets them out of the way right at the beginning. That beautiful double pike, and then that double fan turn. I've just loved BYU's routines this year. Brogan's done such a great job really fitting them to the girls' personalities and their dance styles, and they just all look so pretty doing that.
Yeah, Brogan Evanson, one of the assistant coaches to guard Young. Loving what she's seeing from Natasha Trejo so far.
Like we talked about when Arizona was on floor, that whip into the double twist is worth more than doing the back handspring into the double twist. It's worth bonus, and it's your 2-flip pass. On the floor, you do have to have 1 pass with at least 2 flips in it, 2 separate flips, not a double back.
Critical final pass for Natasha Trejo.
Really great comeback for BYU. A couple of her landings were a little tiny bit off, but when you're coming back after that fall and there's that pressure on you to get back on the train and get that train back where it's supposed to be, she did a great job. You'll see this landing is phenomenal. It's exactly what we were talking about earlier. You can take that lunge. We'll see one here. It's called the lunge, where you put one foot in front of the other. But if you don't have to, it just looks so fantastic and so much more elite.
Trejo bounces back in a big way for BYU as the second competitor on floor after the fall by Jill Van Mierlo. Hendrickson pulls in a 9.25, which honestly after that fall is
great score.
Still a respectable score.
She just had nothing else to deduct on. That's kind of what we were talking about earlier. Even though that's a 5/10 fall, they kind of take a little more because they're like, oh, there's a reason. She must have not had good amplitude. She must have been off. That is her series, her acro flight that we've talked about earlier. We've been seeing the flick lays all night. She does the front back move. A lot of gymnasts opt not to do that because it is harder to connect. However, if you have a beautiful front aerial like she does, then go ahead and take advantage of it. Show it off.
Courtney Coles, Arizona freshman on the beam right now.
For a freshman, Courtney just looks so skilled. She looks very strong right now, very confident. That's exactly what we're looking for at this point in the season. Tons of acro moves. That's a lot of difficulty. That standing layout is a hard one. This is kind of a fun dismount that we never see. The front gainer.
Courtney Coles.
Beautiful set.
The 5'6" freshman, which in gymnastics terms, 5'6" is
You're a giant.
a taller frame, but the lines are beautiful when you can pull them off.
Yeah, it's for sure harder. Anyone who's taken a physics class understands conservation of momentum. The shorter something is, the easier it's going to be to flip around and spin. That taller body is harder to get around. She does it, but as Spencer mentioned, it looks so nice. The lines just look beautiful.
Brianna Pearson now on the floor for BYU. Well, you've covered the RQS, mathematics, and now to physics. Class in session with Mikkel Merkley on BYU TV. Pearson, opening pass for BYU.
Another great double back. You see, she just lands that really solidly. She steps back, probably just out of habit. She didn't even need to take the lunge. Beautiful, beautiful first pass. There's those lead passes that we'll be looking for. The gymnasts are required to connect 2 leaps. One has to at least have the 180-degree split. That move right there is called a Rudy. That's her front move and her twisting move. Brianna's just been exceedingly consistent throughout the season. She was earlier on in the lineups, and then she's actually gone to Brogan and said, Brogan, I would like to move back. I'd like to move back in the lineups. I think I would score better. So they've trying to move around lineups a little bit. Start with Jill. Jill has a fun routine that typically scores very well. Move Brianna back a little bit to see if she can score a little higher.
Brianna Pearson answering the call under pressure. Opening pass from Pearson, third to compete on the floor for BYU. Has the option of that additional landing mat.
Her amplitude is insane. Look at her. And then that landing is great. She knows exactly where she is and just sticks it solid.
Final pass.
You can see a lot. BYU's worked really hard on that. Those shoulders that we talked about. Shoulders have to stay up on those front layouts. And then the body rotates around them. BYU does a really great job showing that off.
Coles with a 9.575. Did I see that right?
I don't know. She must have been missing some kind of.
Did she
I didn't
leave
see
something out?
Yeah, that's what Possibly a connection wasn't counted. It looked like a great routine.
Leung now for Arizona.
There is a process if Arizona feels like that was underscored. You can shoot. You can direct those underscored routines to the meet judge. Even though she's technically stayed on the beam because she touched the beam with her hands, that counts as a fall. So Arizona will be looking to count a fall tonight on beam, unfortunately. I always hated that rule as a gymnast. I feel like if you stay on, you should get some credit.
We didn't see any major gaffes really by either program until this last rotation.
Yeah, that dismount was a little off as well. You do have to land in the middle of the mat. There you see, she does a great job staying on, which is the bummer because it's going to be treated as if she had just hopped off. We'll see here too, her round off's a little bit off, causing her to land very far to the left. She will receive a deduction for that as well. Everything done on the beam though was very smooth, very confident looking, but she will get a lower score for some of those other deductions.
Brianna Pearson with a 9.875 on the floor. That brings on Shannon Hortman.
This routine is a crowd favorite, I've noticed. Everyone seems to get pretty excited about it. We talked at the last home meet about how Shannon has been working on becoming a seeing gymnast rather than a feeling gymnast. Sometimes in gymnastics you feel when to open, you feel when to twist. If you can actually see the floor when you're supposed to land, it will help you become more consistent. And you'll see it's just really all that work she's putting in to see the floor instead of just feel where it is and hope she's right is really paying off. She's just been becoming so consistent.
Shannon Hortman following her teammate Brianna Pearson's 9.875, which by the way is a career high. Hortman has scored a 9.9 on this event. What's interesting about this specific music right here for Shannon, apparently she hates sharks. So why would you put this in your routine?
Maybe she's just trying to work her way through it.
Tackle the fear head on.
Yeah, we'll see her at the beach any day now, ready to go surfing.
Last pass for Shannon Hortman, the freshman phenom at BYU.
So much energy. Shannon's just such a performer. It's so enjoyable to watch. Her routine is great. Her skills are always hit. She's just become very consistent contributor that BYU can depend on. Great amplitude there. When you're looking at these girls, it's hard to tell on TV how high they are. Look for stuff around them. They're as high as the bars, and I'm not sure how high these bleachers are, but it's easy to compare. They're very high in the air.
Well, you're the math expert. You can figure it out from this angle,
here?
can't you?
Come
Just
on.
a little hypotenuse
like
action.
Sine, cosine.
Leung with 9.375. So she did reach down to keep herself up, but the deduction's not as significant as Hendrickson's fall.
Right. It's still the 5/10, but they might have just been, gymnastics is really hard. Judging is hard. And a lot of times we're like, oh, the judges want. But gymnastics is very subjective. They're going to try and make it as fair as possible. So perhaps they were a little bit easier on that. A lot of times with deductions, there's the flat deductions. If you hop off the beam, there's the flat 5/10. And then there's the deductions of you can take up to 3/10 for this. You can take up to 1/10 for this. So sometimes they're a little harder and sometimes they are a little easier on the girls. There's another one of those front back moves that we talked about. The connection wasn't quite as clear as we saw earlier in the meet, but she should still receive that connection.
Kennedy Schneider Put together a very entertaining and high-scoring floor routine in the rotation before the balance beam.
That jump right there is called a sheep jump, very difficult. Again, anytime the gymnasts release their head backwards and lose sight of the beam, that's a very dangerous move, and it is worth quite a bit. It's hard to stay on and stick. Beautiful landing. Really great job coming back. It's hard, once you've lost that momentum, it's hard to get up and get pumped to hit your routines. She did a good job finishing nice and strong there.
Kennedy Schneider with a best mark on the balance beam, 9.725. Gets a hug from her head coach, Tabitha Yim. Shannon Hortman in with a 9.8 on the floor for the Cougars. And here comes Mackenzie Douglas, high flyer on the floor for BYU.
Doug's one of those girls you're going to want to be looking. See these bars here in the background or these bleachers? Look at how high she is compared to those, or just the people standing. Her amplitude is insane. Beautiful double pike. She typically opens with a pass called a full in. Sometimes though it's better to downgrade your routine a little bit. I know her ankles have been sore. They're trying to save those ankles. And also, if you can do the easier pass flawlessly, then go ahead and do that. Don't take any deductions. Again, she's one of those gymnasts, we talked about it earlier, they just kind of look like they floated out of the air. Smooth landings, knows exactly where she is. It all just looks beautiful.
First two passes for Mackenzie Douglas.
Outstanding routine so far.
Yeah, superb.
Mackenzie had the same exact floor routine for 8 years before coming to BYU. And then she was able to keep that routine last year. And then Brogan said, no more. We're getting you a new awesome routine. And she's just done so well with this new routine. It really shows off all her strengths, shows off what a powerful tumbler she is. She just looks so strong and so dominant out there on the floor exercise.
Mackenzie Douglas greeted by a throng of happy teammates after that floor routine. You see
so high
opening pass. Oh, it's fun to watch. Athleticism on top of athleticism. Final pass, blind landing.
You'll see the floor, there's the blue floor, and then there's the white floor around it. If the girls touch that white floor, it is 1/10 automatically off. If they touch it with both feet, 2/10 off.
Schneider with the new season high 9.85 on the balance beam. Arizona absolutely needed it. Nearly rivaling Kristen Howard's opening 9.875. Final competitor on the balance beam for the Arizona Gym Cats is Madison Cindric.
One of those optional moves from Madison, showing that handstand at the beginning, showing great control of the beam. It's kind of an old school move, the handstands. They used to be required. Being able to hold a handstand was thought to be just part of gymnastics, and we don't see that very often anymore. Beautiful kick showing off her flexibility. A lot of times on beam, we are just seeing the acros and the jumps and then getting off before there's a chance for you to fall off on something. So it's so fun when we get to take a step back and see some of these other moves to show off their strengths.
Final competitors of this head-to-head meet between BYU and Arizona. Madison Cindric, Kylie Greenleaf, waiting to compete on the floor for BYU. That's a great routine from Madison Cindric.
Great routine. She should expect a great score from there. There's that dismount again is called a gainer, something we don't see very often anymore.
Seen two of the Arizona girls, Courtney Coles and now Madison Cindric, compete that gainer dismount. A version of it, I should say.
Yeah, the one we saw earlier, it had a twist in it, which is worth a little bit more. That one, the pike, a little easier to stick because you're not worrying about spinning around both backwards and on the other axis as well. That makes you a little more consistent.
Yeah, Mackenzie Douglas, sorry to cut you off, Mikkel. 9.85 on the floor. BYU, a clean routine from Kylie Greenleaf, away from a score of 196 or better.
Guard spoke so highly of Kylie after their last meet. At the beginning of the season, she was a little bit of a wild card. She wasn't sure she'd hit or not, so she didn't have a spot in lineup. She's since changed her training technique. She's visualizing competing as if she's in her training facility, which has just really seemed to help. And ever since she figured that out, she's just been a consistent hitter, putting up big scores for BYU every single meet.
Redshirt junior out of Sammamish, Washington.
Those were beautiful leaps and jumps. The height on those and the control she showed. Sometimes on the leaps and jumps, we'll see the girls hopping around out of them, but she really stuck that landing as well.
Phantom of the Opera music playing. 2 passes down, 1 critical pass to go for Kylie Greenleaf. Jill Van Mierlo looking on in the background. She fell in that opening routine on the floor, and her teammates have stepped up huge. Greenleaf lined up. Final pass. You betcha.
Beautiful landing. That's exactly what the girls have been waiting for. Jill's gonna feel so much relief just knowing, look at them. That's the best feeling in college gymnastics, is that you're not out there competing for yourself. You're competing as a team. You're gonna see here beautiful splits. It really shows off both splits, and then watch this landing. Very solid, no deduction on that. It's very easy to lose deductions on little things on leaps and jumps. She's not giving anything away. So much pressure on her to hit this pass right here. Nails it. Steps to the side just a tiny, tiny bit, but you know what? She's on her feet, and that's exactly what BYU needed out of this routine.
What a moment for Kylie Greenleaf. An individual sport in so many ways, but still clearly a team competition. Exhibition routine on the balance beam for Arizona, Victoria Ortiz. All of the official scores, at least the ones that will be counted, and the performances that led up to them in the books. We'll await the final tally here in the Smithfield house. Ortiz.
Beautiful series pass. What we want to see on those series is we don't want to see that layout go up super high and lack in distance. We want it to look like, we joked about math earlier, the x squared, the parabola is what we want it to look like, where it's equally long as it is high.
Hometown girl for the Gym Cats out of Tucson, Arizona, and Saguaro High School.
She looks very confident up there, taking her time, showing each of her moves off. It's so easy to rush on beam because you really just want to hit your skills and get off it. But if you can just slow down a little bit, then it helps out quite a bit. Very fun dismount. She combines her front side move aerial right into the dismount. Very good strategic planning. You can't fall off on an aerial if you're just planning on jumping off anyways. Great dismount out of it, nice landing.
Congratulations all around for Victoria Ortiz. BYU will have a floor exhibition from Cheyenne Hill.
Cheyenne's fun to watch on floor. She really likes to show off her dance, have fun with it. We're going to be seeing a lot more out of Cheyenne next year as she just gains experience and as that ankle heals. Huge mount. Again, these landings are insane. These girls are all doing so well.
The music from Mikkel Merkley's personal mix.
I actually picked out all their music right before the meet. Another just phenomenal double back. These girls, they know exactly where they are. They're just looking so consistent. Again, they're peaking at the exact right time. the trick is you need to get into regionals and then peak at regionals, because it doesn't matter what your RQS is after regionals. You have to be in the top few teams. Only top 2 from each group goes on to nationals. So they want to be peaking now so that they can hit at regionals and move on to nationals.
Final pass for Cheyenne Hill in this exhibition floor routine.
Great set.
You betcha for Cheyenne Hill. That wraps up the routines tonight. 4 rotations complete, including the exhibitions. BYU will score over 196 in this meet. It's just a matter of how much over 196, and the good news for the Cougars, when they needed it the most to help their RQS regional qualifying score, they got it at home on this Friday night. Our scorebox sponsor, Brady Industries, provider of commercial cleaning supplies and equipment throughout the western United States for over 65 years. Brady Industries, clean solutions, a tradition for generations. And we are watching the scores closely right now. Arizona, well, let's call it how it is, disappointing 48.6 on the balance beam after they made a move on the floor with a great score.
Such a bummer when you hit on the first 3 events, energy's high, excitement's high, and then to go out on that lower score.
Cindric scores a 9.925 to bring it up to a 48.6.
Huge score.
But the Gym Cats have to count a 9.575 and a 9.375. BYU on the floor, 49.125. They drop the 8.8, obviously, from Jill Van Mierlo after she took that tumble in the opening routine, which makes it 4 for 4 on the night. BYU goes 49 plus on all 4 events. Guard young,
which was exactly what their goal was for tonight.
Smile worth 1,000 words right there.
A lot of pressure off the team going into the meet on Monday. This is going to greatly affect their RQS. They'll already move up in the rankings. And so come Monday when they have their next meet, they'll likely already be in this top 36.
BYU going to win their first head-to-head meet of the season. It comes against Arizona in the second to last meet of the year. Going into tonight's meet, Arizona averaging a 195.68, BYU 194.990, but a 196 plus tonight. And they didn't just barely get over that mark. My unofficial calculations have it around a 196.3, and it is a 196.350, second best score of the season for the Cougars, and another all-timer when you look at the last decade.
It's been a long time since the Cougars have been in the 196 range, and you can see new team, new excitement, new training techniques. It's all kind of starting to come together and pay off.
Just 3/4 of a tenth below their season best of 196.425. See some support from the fans in the stands, the Go Cheyenne sign for Cheyenne Hill. Passionate about shouldering people's burdens as it is about BYU, Dexter, and Dexter helps you when you need it most. DexterLaw.com, 9.9 right here, Mikkel.
The whole routine was just beautiful. No deductions to be, I don't even really know what they were deducting on. They must have taken several tiny, tiny deductions. Look at that dismount. Such a great night for BYU.
There is Jill Van Mierlo. 2 years ago, Mountain Rim Gymnastics Conference Gymnast of the Year. BYU with a 196.35. Arizona in with a 195.475. The Wildcats right about their season average with tonight's score in this meet, just a hair under that. BYU well over their season average, and you would think that this won't just bump BYU up